Everything is so normal these days. We are living in a very normal and average moment in human history. Also, the United States government is using Ragebait as its main institutional communication strategy and appropriating nostalgia and pop girlies aesthetics to spread mass deportation propaganda.
I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test, to train them is my cause.
Have you ever tried this one? Have you ever tried this one? Have you ever tried this?
This is fine, this is fine. I told my dad that my bachelor in media communications would be good for something one day. But you know, dear stranger online, when I went to college not long ago, institutional communications used to be the most boring thing you could possibly do. Very stiff, very serious, very respectful. After all, you are a public government agency and you need communications to be accessible, direct, and inclusive of everybody. Good old liberal democracies, but the past is a foreign country and the 2000s neoliberalism is basically Narnia at this point. Did it even exist? I don't know. I really miss when politics was boring because today, the strategy, that foundational base that right-wing communicators use as their guiding star, isn't clarity, accessibility, or openness. It's only in the lips. In my leftist indoctrination college, I learned that one of these Canadian betas, Marshall McLuhan, wrote that the medium is the message. That means that the way you communicate always adapts to the medium. Radio needs jingles, TV needs formal respectability, and social media asks for polarization, debate, fights, rage bait. That's basically the communication handbook for the Trump administration. Make them fight. Information is almost irrelevant. Whenever the White House, Homeland Security, or Trump himself posts, the goal is not inform the public. It's to entertain the base and enrage, well, probably you and me, dear stranger online. They are always leaning on fashy meme culture, Gen Z TikTok edits, AI-generated images of a Latina mother getting deported, and Olivia Rodrigo and Sabrina Carpenter's pop girly aesthetic to talk about very fun stuff. Mass deportations, raids, people getting dragged out of their homes. The point here is to make their supporters feel hyped and in on the joke, and to make their opponents so furious that they quote tweet, dunk, stitch, rage reply, which conveniently just feeds the algorithm and boosts the propaganda even more. It's been like that with Pokémon and even poor Franklin the Turtle. Last night's victim was the short and sweet and unapologetically straightest woman alive, Sabrina Carpenter. The White House posted a deportation highlight reel set to her song Juno, and Sabrina wasn't happy. She replied by saying, "This video is evil and disgusting. Do not ever involve me or my music to benefit your inhumane agenda." This was an insane ratio, mind you. The original White House post sits at around 50,000 likes, while Sabrina's response blew past 1 million. It feels like a win, but this is exactly the dynamic they're looking for. Her reply catapulted the clip into everyone's feed, giving it about 100 times more reach than a normal White House video would usually get on its own. And of course, they doubled down. The official account replied with, "Here's a short and sweet message for Sabrina. We won't apologize for deporting dangerous criminal, blah blah blah. Anyone who defends the sick monsters must be stupid or is it slow." They didn't back off. They escalated instead. Continue the fight and the rage bait. That's the play, to keep the quote tweets coming and farm outrage as free distribution. Rage bait is not a side effect of their institutional communication strategy. It is the strategy. But, well, when I saw this last night, I was already very familiar with this situation because the exact same thing happened to Pokémon a few months ago. The bait, the hook, the escalation. And well, this is a Pokémon channel, so let's talk about that. They simply posted a video edit using the Pokémon anime theme song and Gotta Catch 'em All over a bunch of clips from ice raids. A very normal and average moment in human history we're living in. When that went up, people got furious and walked straight into debate. The fight escalated and right-wing, likely botted accounts started replying with TCG-style cards of migrants getting deported, doubling down on the gotta catch 'em all thing. I'm not gonna put those on screen, partly because they're really dark, and partly because that ties into the point I'm gonna make at the end of the video. But here's where the Pokémon case is a little bit different. A lot of people were sure that the Homeland Security was about to get smacked to the floor with a massive DMCA, takedown notices, cease and desist letters because Nintendo and the Pokémon Company are extremely protective of their brands. Everyone fell back into the very well-known meme of Nintendo ninjas, please pick this up and sue the living being out of the Trump administration. And that is a reputation that absolutely precedes them. Examples that come to mind are Pokémon Prism, a gigantic ROM hack of Pokémon Crystal that had been in development for about 8 years, with a new region and a new story. It was basically finished until a few days before launch, when the creator got a formal cease and desist letter from Nintendo's lawyers, which prompted them to cancel the project altogether. Broader Nintendo modding projects, from Mario to Metroid, also know this well. Nintendo and Pokémon are so protective of their brand that today, passionate creators who want to explore the series they love often have to walk in a very unstable legal tightrope, ensuring they are not distributing illegal ROMs, never charging money, not to touch anything that could potentially be interpreted as breaking copyright law, making their best efforts to try and stay out of the way of the infamous Nintendo Ninjas trademark. But when it came to the Trump administration, the Nintendo Ninjas trademark were nowhere to be found. The video is still very much up, almost 3 months after it was originally posted. I mean, if a Little Sprite fan project is copyright infringement and misuse of the brand, I cannot imagine that a video like this, posted by an official government agency, didn't set off at least a dozen red alarms inside the Pokémon Company's headquarters. But no legal action was taken and the community was left confused. Could it be that secretly Nintendo and the Pokémon Company, this family-friendly brands that show up at pride parades and co-tweet Nora Trainer's transition timeline with cute messages, are actually supportive of the Trump administrations? The thing is that the very fair and very cool legal system of the United States simply says that the White House can kind of do whatever they want in regards to copyright. There is a statute that I don't know how to read called 28 U.S.C. 1498B. I'm reading, I'm sorry. Basically states that you can't force the government to take a copyrighted work down. You can only sue them for monetary damages. What you can do instead is to send a DMCA takedown notice to Twitter. And it was absolutely a possibility because it's exactly the option used by the band that was the soundtrack to many people's first acid trip, MGMT. DHS published a very fashy video set to a slowed-down version of Little Dark Age, which, funnily enough, is a song about the anxiety and the loss of their American identity that was caused by Trump's first term, according to Andrew and Ben and Genius.com. So, LOL. MGMT and their label got together and had that tweet taken down basically immediately. Meanwhile, the Pokémon Company issued just a PR statement saying, "We are aware of a recent video posted by the Department of Homeland Security that includes imagery and language associated with our brand. Our company was not involved in the creation or distribution of this content, and permission was not granted for the use of our intellectual property." But then, nothing. No follow-up, no visible legal action, no takedown notice. The video's still there. No Nintendo Ninjas trademark. What gives? Well, as someone who has received a copyright notice for using Pokémon clips in a video before, let me give you a small lecture on a very fun subject I like to call the mayhem that is the organizational layout of Pokémon. So, the Pokémon Company is the entity that makes decisions over the Pokémon brand, and it's actually owned in equal parts by 3 companies: Nintendo, Game Freak, and Creatures Inc. But when I published my Lugia video earlier this year, a video with a few fair use clips from Pokémon 2000, the copyright notification I got wasn't from Nintendo or from the Pokémon Company. It was from ShowPro, which is an entirely different thing. That's because the Pokémon anime is actually managed by yet someone else. You've got TV Tokyo involved as the broadcaster, and ShowPro is the company that actively watches over its copyright use. If you type ShowPro copyright into the YouTube search bar, you will find dozens and dozens of videos from creators who got notices from them. ShowPro is the name that shows up in your inbox. But hang on in there, dear Stranger Line, because there is yet another company in this story. Because what is specifically being used in this video are not the Pokemon video games or just the anime. It's the theme song. And the rights to those are tied to 4Kids, the production company that localized the show and commissioned a completely different English song for the US market. And also, as a final actor in this little corporate fiesta, you also have the Pokémon Company International, which is a separate entity from the Japanese Pokémon Company, and is the branch that actually issued the polite PR statement that we read a few minutes ago. I think that's it. Talk about a polycule. And yes, picking up a legal fight with the US government is something that requires a lot more approvals and business meetings than sending a scary email to a college kid who's coding a ROM hack in their dorm. These corporate giants cannot move as fast as MGMT firing off a DMCA notice, an indie band of two guys talking to their label and their non-binary lawyer who lives in LA and saying, "Did you see what Trump did?" With Pokemon, you've got Nintendo, Game Freak, Creatures, ShowPro, TV Tokyo, 4Kid catalog owners, and the Pokemon Company International all somewhere in the mix. A whole boardroom of people who are very far removed from the actual games and who ultimately seem to have decided that the PR route was easier than a messy international copyright fight. Personally, I don't think that does much to protect the brand image, but I can imagine all of these institutions looking at each other and going, "Let's not make a big fuss and just let this blow over," which of course works somewhat because it is exactly the opposite of what the Trump administration's Ragebait strategy wants. And the truth is, even when you go after these platforms, even with copyright tools like DMCA, there's no guarantee you'll actually win. When ICE used Olivia Rodrigo's banger All American Bitch in a very similar way, she also felt horrible about it. Like, she's 22, these guys are vile. I'm sure she tried to go through the same route as MGMT did. She did comment on Homeland Security's Instagram post, "Don't ever use my songs to promote your racist, hateful propaganda." And her comment got deleted while the video is still up. The Christian rock band Black Rebel Motorcycle Club went through the same thing. One of their songs was used in a grim ICE edit. They publicly said they issued a DMCA, and their video is still up. So even when people push back and use the proper copyright channels, it doesn't always result in a tidy takedown. Sometimes all you get is a public angry statement, an interview, and the video stays. But here's the thing, that's what the Trump administration wants. That's how a Ragebait editorial strategy works. That's how every Ragebait strategy works. Fishing for enraged answers like the ones from Sabrina and her fans, and getting a free engagement boost. It really sucks. Bureaucracy and copyright legislation is messy and tricky and complicated. There are never easy answers that can explain how the hell the Trump administration can get away with this. And while that's definitely not my area of expertise, Pokemon sure is. While all of these does help explain why the Pokemon clip is still up, why Sabrina's clip is still up, and why even bands that file DMCA sometimes get ignored, I think we might be missing the point here. I think the more important question isn't where are the Nintendo Ninjas trademark, it is why a government strategy of low-effort, hateful, racist Ragebait content is somehow working. Because it is also the core of why social media today feels so unbearable. These are algorithms that are carefully designed to hijack your time and attention by throwing controversial topics in front of you and making you argue with people you're not even sure are real. Whenever I get a creepy answer from a transphobic person on the mental health website, if I visit their profile, I will see that all they do all day is reply to posts from trans people. It could be a bot, or it could be that the algorithm identified that this person loves to comment angrily at trans people living their best lives. The algorithm is purposefully showing them something they hate, which is sometimes, unfortunately, cute pictures of me. Our attention is their profit. And the easiest way to get his attention is to show us something that hits your strongest, messiest emotion: anger. Deportation edits with Sabrina Carpenter, Pokemon Eyes highlight reels, Franklin the Turtle fascist memes. It's all designed to take something we love, that we associate with positive, nonsensical, nostalgic feelings and pervert it. Bait us deeply where it hurts, because that's how fascism works. Their goal is not just to deport people, it's to deport people and then make you watch the highlight reel, quote tweet it, argue in the replies, and turn your horror into engagement metrics, while keeping their follower base engaged by seeing how base they are when triggering the libs. So the most powerful thing you can do is something that is oftentimes boring and preachy, but don't give them your attention, just don't. Even if you have a very funny or smart or snarky answer, even if they touched a nerve, even if they talked about something you care about deeply, don't answer, don't quote, block and mute. That's the little bit of power we still have, and trust me, when somebody sends an infuriating message that they want to get an angry answer from you, denying them that is the only way to fight back in the same coin. That's why when I turn off comments on a post, people will come after me, will run, will search, will find somewhere where they can leave a comment on an unrelated selfie or a stream or a video, because what they really want is for me to engage, to answer, to give them that attention that they crave. And it pisses them off so much when you just don't. Got it, Anthony. So now, what we're gonna do is like and subscribe to this video first. Yeah, sure, I'm a YouTuber still, sorry. But then what we do is we all go open the Homeland Security page and block them, really. I have worked in social media before and they measure performance in metrics. Blocking them actively hurts their metrics. I know it's hard, letting go of social media is hard, and these past few days I'm trying and often failing at reducing my screen time. But other than going outside and marching, the best way to fight off Ragebait is to block liberally, to mute words and accounts, even if these baiters will tease that I'm overreacting or too sensitive. I would rather be too sensitive than be free labor for the US Homeland Security Communications team. That's why you will never see transphobic comments under my videos, because the block button is just too fun to press. They want my attention, they want yours, and that's not a victory that I am willing to hand over. They cannot have my attention, they cannot have my joy, they cannot have my music, and they certainly cannot have Pokemon. Because of that video, what all of this proves more than anything is that they just don't understand the themes of Pokemon, or the excitement of pop music, or the beauty of the gothic indie of MGMT. Turn off your phone, honestly, go read a book, or really watch a well-researched YouTube essay without getting distracted by your timeline. Get all your friends and go listen to Sabrina Carpenter's Go-Go Juice, also known as the best song of the year. While that's not how we beat them in the real world, in the battle for our minds and our attention, it is still our strongest weapon.